Hello YouTube vintage rails collectors. Now I do a lot of tube stuff and some transistor stuff. I don't do many shortwave radios. This is kind of an interesting piece here. This is an early 80s realistic DX-200 communications receiver. It's all analog with drum type tuning, and it's got a lot of neat buttons and dials on it. The kind of stuff you don't see on the newer digital radios. Now when I got into shortwave and into ham radio back in the early 80s, this was a new receiver. I couldn't really buy one. I bought a Yamaha receiver instead and turntable, so I spent all my money from my job at the grocery store. But I used to like these, and then of course a few years later they came with the digital ones. I picked this one up for $49 locally in Cambridge, Ontario, and I think it was priced right. Cosmetically, really nice clean dial, no scratches, no bangs, no nicotine. Few things that I've had to do to it. One of the things I just want to show you the dial lighting. I've switched it to LED, and this has several of these little bulbs in it. They're 14-volt bulbs. Inside the tuning drums, they're actually on a circuit board. And the one thing that was annoying, all the bulbs actually worked. But this one here was incredibly bright. Well, I found it was a 6-volt bulb being powered by, it was about 13.6 volts. So that must have been fairly recent. These were both the correct bulbs at first glance, but one was quite a bit brighter than the other. Well, it turns out that they were the same type of bulb, but different current ratings. So I just thought to myself, well, these are hard to get. So I made up a circuit that uses 5 high-intensity LEDs. And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to flip it on its side here so you can see what I've done underneath. Bring it around. Right down in here, there's a terminal board. Let's see, put some more light on it. There's a terminal board. I love these little phenolic resin terminal boards. I use them in guitar amps, things like that. I solder it right to the case so it has a good ground. So the original 14-volt AC hits a single IN 4001 diode, 180 ohm dropping resistor, and then the 5 high-intensity LEDs are all in series. And you can figure out the value of the dropping resistor. You're looking to get it to 20 milliamps of current, about 3.45 volts per bulb. But there's several online calculators. I also did another upgrade with this. I put a 3-wire grounded cord on it, and it had some crimps over here that were a little bit sloppy, so I soldered another terminal board so I could actually solder the cord connections to the power transformer connections and have a good ground to the chassis. And this makes the whole thing, and of course it's a metal sleeve that goes on top of this, so you do want it grounded. Anyway, the other thing I did, I'll just flip around the other side, complete recapping all the electrolytics. There's not even that many in it. Several had been, actually 3 had been replaced already in the audio section, so it must have been sounding that good. I just replaced them all. I use some MEAC capacitors, some Jameco, just standard 85 degrees Celsius capacitors. And there's only one electrolytic on this board. And then I did an alignment on it, which is a little bit tricky. I mean, you've got RF coils and oscillator coils for both the top end and the lower end of each band. So I actually used a vintage tone generator, modulating tone generator, to align it, which is really kind of neat. It's a tube one, but let's run this thing to show you what it kind of is like in operation. We're on the AM band, just at the top of the band. I have a wire going over to the screen of the window in the room here for an antenna. This light creates a lot of RF. So all kinds of skip coming in on AM. What's neat about this, it has a band spread tuner down here. At the set point, you can fine tune it. And you can use the BFO pitch control in the AM mode as well. Now let's flip on a shortwave band here. I always turn it down between bands. Let's go up to the 1.6 to 4.5 kilocycle band. See what we can get. It's not too much in shortwave these days. Not too much on that band. Last night was actually, we had a bit of snow. I don't know how that affected the atmosphere, but I was getting all kinds of stuff. So if you want to fine tune something, you can do this way. .49 meter band. So right now, if you're on the red dot on 49 meter, you go to the 49 meter scale, and you have another dial to tune through. I say I'm not picking too much. I don't have a great antenna on it, but it has some features: and signal meter, antenna trim, adjustable AGC, fast and slow, 5 bands, the 2 tuning wheels, RF gain, volume, single sideband CW, a standby mode AM with noise limiter, and a built-in 500 kilohertz calibrator, which is kind of neat. I find it's a little bit crude. I leave it, it's funny, and this switch is the opposite of what you think. It's labeled out down here, but what they mean is this is the out switch, and to put it out, you put it up. If you look in the manual, you'll see their logic. So when it's down, the calibrator's on, and every 500 hertz, you get all the harmonics, so you get a really strong tone. It's a little bit annoying when you're going through the bands, because all of a sudden, woo, ah, woo. But it works great as a headphone jack. And the nice thing about having the LEDs in the lighting, very small power transformer on this that runs really hot. It was drawing about, I'd say about 11 watts of power out of the power transformer, mainly for lighting. Now it's down to about 1.4 watts just to run the radio and the LEDs, so it stays a lot cooler. Thanks for watching and listening.